The flight from Atlanta to Los Angeles was supposed to be just another family trip for Marcus Green, a respected black attorney known for his calm and composed nature. His two young kids were excited, clutching their coloring books and window snacks as they settled into their seats. But just before takeoff, a flight attendant walked up with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. She asked Marcus's children to move so a white couple could sit together, claiming there'd been a booking mix-up. The cabin fell silent, and Marcus could feel every pair of eyes watching. His children looked confused, unsure why they suddenly had to leave the seats they'd been assigned. Marcus knew this wasn't just about seats. It was about dignity, about the quiet ways people are still told they don't belong. He could have just let it go, but years in the courtroom had taught him something powerful. Silence often speaks louder than injustice itself. As the flight crew pressed him to comply, Marcus made a choice that would leave everyone stunned, from the passengers to the pilot. By the time the captain made the announcement, the entire airline would be at a standstill, and Marcus Green's name would make headlines across the country. But what exactly did he do on that plane? And how did a single act of courage turn a moment of humiliation into a national conversation about respect and equality? Marcus sat still for a moment, trying to process what just happened. The hum of the airplane felt louder now, every eye watching him as if waiting to see whether he'd comply or cause a scene. His daughter clutched his arm, confused and scared, while his son kept asking, "Dad, did we do something wrong?" Marcus's heart broke hearing those words. He'd worked his whole life to make sure his children never felt small because of who they were. He calmly pulled out the family's boarding passes and handed them to the flight attendant. "These are our seats," he said evenly, his voice controlled but firm. The attendant barely looked at them before glancing toward the white couple and muttering something about reassignments. Marcus noticed how no one was questioning the couple's claim. It wasn't about the tickets anymore, it was about something unspoken, something that made his stomach tighten. As tension filled the cabin, Marcus's mind flashed back to his years in law school, to every case where people in power assumed silence meant weakness. But this time, he wasn't in a courtroom, he was a father protecting his children's dignity. A few passengers murmured in support, while others avoided eye contact, pretending nothing was wrong. The captain's voice came over the speaker, asking everyone to stay calm, but Marcus knew this was far from over. Deep down, he sensed this incident wasn't just about seats. It was about standing up when no one else dared to, and he was just getting started. The flight attendant walked away to check with the captain, but Marcus could see her whispering to the couple instead. His instincts told him this wasn't going to end fairly. He looked at his kids, nervous, small, and unsure whether to cry or stay quiet. A man across the aisle, wearing a business suit, leaned over and said softly, "Sir, I saw everything. You're right, those are your seats." Marcus nodded in gratitude, though he knew a few voices of support might not be enough. Moments later, the head flight attendant arrived, her tone calm, but her words sharp. "Sir, if you can't cooperate, we'll have to delay departure." The word cooperate stung. He wasn't refusing anything, he was simply asking for respect. Passengers began whispering louder now, phones discreetly recording. Somewhere near the back, a mother muttered, "This is ridiculous." Marcus stayed seated, his lawyer's composure intact. He asked again to speak with the captain directly, but the crew refused. That's when he noticed something. The couple didn't even seem sure which seats were supposed to be theirs. They exchanged awkward glances, their confidence fading as more passengers caught on. Still, the staff refused to back down. The captain's door stayed closed. Marcus realized this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was about control and saving face. As his kids held his hands tightly, he decided he wouldn't let this go. Not this time. The battle for their seats was turning into something much bigger, and Marcus was ready to fight it to the end. The air inside the cabin felt heavy now, like everyone was holding their breath. The flight attendants whispered near the galley, their eyes darting toward Marcus and his kids. Minutes passed, but the situation only grew worse. A supervisor boarded the plane, clipboard in hand, and walked straight to Marcus. Her tone was firm, rehearsed, the kind that hides pressure behind politeness. "Sir, the captain has requested you and your children deplane so we can sort this out at the gate." The words hit like a slap. His daughter's grip on his arm tightened, her voice trembling. "Daddy, are we in trouble?" Marcus looked at her, heartbreaking, then turned to the supervisor. "We're not moving," he said quietly but clearly. "We've done nothing wrong." Passengers began murmuring louder, their phones now fully raised. The atmosphere was electric, disbelief, tension, and anger all mixing in the air. A few people started to speak up. "He's right," someone shouted. "They paid for those seats." Another voice added, "This is outrageous." The supervisor's face stiffened as the cabin began to turn against her. But instead of backing down, she stepped away to call airport security. Marcus could feel his pulse racing. He wasn't just defending his seat, he was standing up for every quiet moment he'd swallowed unfairness. His kids sat silently beside him, wide-eyed and brave. Outside the window, the jet bridge door reopened. Footsteps echoed toward the plane, and Marcus knew the real confrontation was seconds away. The cabin went silent as two uniformed airport officers stepped inside. Their presence made the air feel colder, heavier. The passengers watched, phones still recording, as the officers approached Marcus's row. One of them spoke softly, almost apologetic. "Sir, we've been asked to escort you off the plane." Marcus met his eyes, calm but unyielding. "Officer," he said, "before you do that, please check the boarding passes. My children and I are in the right seats. The airline made a mistake, and they're trying to cover it." The officer hesitated, glancing toward the flight attendant, who quickly shook her head as if to warn him not to get involved. But before anyone could speak again, a man in first class stood up. He was tall, confident, and holding a briefcase. "Excuse me," he said loudly. "I'm the regional manager for this airline. What's going on here?" The entire plane turned toward him. The staff froze. It was clear they hadn't realized who was on board. The manager asked for the boarding passes, reviewed them carefully, and then frowned. "These seats belong to Mr. Bell and his children," he said firmly. The couple shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. The tension was so thick, it was hard to breathe. But before anyone could feel relief, the manager's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, his expression tightening. "Mr. Bell," he said slowly, "you might want to hear this. It's about how your name came up at corporate headquarters, and it's not what you think." Marcus watched the manager's expression darken as he read the message. The cabin was silent again, everyone waiting to see what would happen next. The manager finally looked up and said, "Mr. Bell, your name came up because corporate already knows who you are. You represented a group of passengers in a discrimination case last year against this very airline." Gasps spread through the cabin. The irony hit like a lightning bolt. Marcus realized the staff had recognized his name and tried to handle him quietly, afraid of bad publicity if things escalated. Marcus stood, his voice steady but powerful. "So instead of learning from your mistakes, you tried to silence the very people you wronged." His words hung heavy in the air. The officers stepped back, no longer willing to intervene. The manager nodded slowly, guilt flickering in his eyes. "You're right," he admitted. "This never should have happened." Passengers began clapping, the sound growing louder until the entire plane echoed with support. Marcus looked at his children, both smiling now, proud of their father. But before he could sit down, the manager's phone buzzed again. He read the message and sighed. "Corporate has grounded the flight," he said quietly. "They're investigating this incident and the entire crew." Marcus exhaled, not out of victory, but relief. The injustice had been exposed. As the passengers began to deplane, one woman whispered, "He didn't just stand up for his kids, he grounded the whole airline." And in that moment, Marcus knew change had finally begun. As Marcus and his children stepped off the plane, the cool air from the jet bridge felt like a quiet victory. Reporters were already gathering near the gate, alerted by passengers who had posted videos online. The story was spreading fast. Black attorney defends his kids after airline mistreats family. Marcus didn't want fame. He just wanted fairness. Still, he knew the moment meant more than just a personal win. It was a reminder that speaking up, even when you stand alone, can spark real change. Later that week, the airline issued a public apology and announced new sensitivity and fairness training for all its staff. The flight crew involved were suspended pending review. And Marcus received a call from the company's CEO offering to meet in person. But Marcus didn't ask for compensation. Instead, he asked for reform, a promise that no family would ever experience what his children did that day. Back home, his kids couldn't stop talking about how proud they were. "You didn't yell, Dad," his son said, smiling. "You just stood your ground." Marcus smiled back, realizing that was the lesson he wanted them to remember. Strength doesn't always shout. In the weeks that followed, the story continued to inspire others online. People called Marcus a hero, but he didn't see himself that way. He was just a father who refused to let silence win. And in doing so, he grounded more than an airline, he grounded a moment in truth.